Hi, I'm Nicole, and this is Nick's Picks. I started this channel last year, and I posted a video every month talking about the books that I read that month. I really wanted to continue it this year, and yet here we are in April, and I have not put up a video yet. So today we're going to talk about the 9 books that I read in January, February, and March. But before that, I will tell you what held me up. So I'm very excited about the fact that I published one of my own books. I decided to go the self-publishing route. As much as I've loved reading my whole life, I've also always been a writer. I've written multiple books, tried to get them published the traditional way with an agent and all of that, and finally said, in the age of social media and book talk and all of this stuff, let me get it out there. So this is Heart's Content Road by Nicole Avery. If you like my vibe, if you'd like to check it out, it's available on Amazon. You can get this paperback, you could get it as an ebook, or you could read it for free with Kindle Unlimited. I'll briefly tell you about it. I will not give it a review, obviously, but I'll just briefly tell you. It's basically about 2 people that were high school sweethearts, and they broke up and they married other people, but they never got over each other. And so this book takes place at a resort in the Catskills that they're now going to every year to have an affair. So once a year they visit the Fancy Glen and they have this affair. They each take their best friend with them. They were all friends back then when they were younger, so it's just kind of like this escape from life and escape to, the time when they were 17 and carefree. And I hope you'll check it out. And it's the first in a series, so I do have more written also. So basically in January, towards the end of the month, I was finally giving this one final look through, and I was like, I'm almost done, let me hold off on my video so that I could talk about this in the video. And then sure enough, when I go to upload it, it wasn't just as simple as put this up. Changing from one platform to the other messed up everything, all my formatting, my italics, my paragraph alignment. So my husband and I pretty much spent February combing through and fixing all of that. And then we got to the end of February and I was like, okay, we're almost done, so I won't put a video up. I'll wait till this is up. And then sure enough, I put it up and I downloaded it on my Kindle. And as I'm reading it, there were still a couple of things that didn't seem right. So I spent most of March doing one final look through, because they do let you make updates even after it's live. And I figured I'd put one more update through before I put it out there. So that's why we're in April, and I was very sidetracked with this, but thankfully I also kept reading, so I do still have a lot of good stuff to talk about. So this again is my book, Heart's Content Road by Nicole Avery, on Amazon. Now, the first book I read in January, I read 4 books in January. I was highly anticipating this book. It's Survive the Night by Riley Sager. So a couple of reasons why. Number one, it was my first Riley Sager book. So I was really looking forward to that, because all of the book talk videos, everything you see online, most thriller videos talk about him. So I was really excited to get into one of his books. This is not one that I've seen talked about a lot, but I just really, when I saw it, thought it sounded interesting. So I spent all of last year, every time I went to a bookstore, trying to buy this. And the store, the Barnes & Noble that I usually go to, it had 1 copy and it was damaged. So I can never get it. And, again, I know I could order it online, all that. I'm very I like everything in good condition and all that, and you can't always check that when you do that online. You don't know what's going to come, and I've been burned before. So I much prefer buying it in a bookstore. So I would always move on, because I'd always have 100 million things on my TBR, and I'd say, all right, I'll check next time. Sure enough, I go to another bookstore, same exact thing. I go away on vacation to this cute little book cabin that I visit on my vacation. Same thing, 1 copy damaged. So finally I order it online. Comes with a different cover, and I hate when that happens, and it was not how it was advertised. So I was just so totally turned off to it. I was like, all right, I'm not even reading this. I don't like this cover, whatever. So finally, as part of my Christmas haul, when my husband was buying me some Christmas books, he found this copy in great condition, and I was so excited to get it. So long story short, that's also part of why I was so excited to finally read this book. So it was good. I mean, I thought it was a really good thriller. The premise is that this girl, Charlie, she, her best friend was killed. They're in college, and she was killed by a campus serial killer. And she kind of blames herself. She wasn't with her that night or whatever. And she wants to go home because she feels so guilty. She needs to take a break from college for a while. So she takes advantage of those ride share boards, you know, where you put up, I need a ride, I'm going for a ride, and, you know, you pay for gas and whatever. And she ends up going home with this guy, Josh, a stranger. So, of course, this whole book is about, is Josh the campus serial killer? So there are very few characters in this book. We pretty much have Charlie and Josh. We have Charlie's boyfriend, who stays at the college. And that's, you know, really it. I will say, and I don't want to give any spoilers, the big twist or whatever it is kind of played out exactly how I expected it to. It's a you know, storyline that we've seen before for sure. I wasn't like super shocked by that. Again, the biggest options are, is it Josh or isn't it? Like, you know, right away, like, or early on, we're kind of like suspicious of him and she's suspicious of him, and, you know, we got to figure out if we're safe with him, kind of thing. So the answer is really yes or no. You got two options. But again, I feel like you're not going to be so totally, it's something that's happened before that you've seen in other thriller type books. So it went exactly where I thought it was going to go in terms of that. But I will say there was one or two other things that I really wasn't expecting, even at like the very end or whatever. It really did kind of surprise me. And the story itself was just kind of fun. Like, it definitely kept my interest. The pacing was good. I was invested in it. I wanted to know if it was him, if it wasn't him. Sometimes I felt like it was. Sometimes I felt like it wasn't. You know, you're really unsure throughout the whole book. And you know, it kind of keeps you going back and forth. There's also this element of we kind of know she is possibly an unreliable narrator because she has this like thing. Her parents also died when she was younger, so she's been traumatized, and she does this thing where she kind of like sees movies in real life. So after her parents died, her grandmother took care of her and they watched a ton of movies, and that's like her escape and her comfort. So she kind of, her brain tends to do that with real life sometimes. She'll just kind of like zone out into a real life movie kind of thing. So we never know for sure. She never knows for sure if what she's seeing, she's like off her meds. So, you know, we don't know, she doesn't know for sure if she could trust everything that she's experiencing either, because she knows that she tends to do this. So that was like a whole element too. And if you're a movie lover, there was a lot of movie references. Like, it was definitely an interesting book. I will definitely read more by Riley Sager. Good intro to him. Interesting book, interesting premise. Again, I don't know that it's going to be like super, oh my God, jaw to the floor, was shocked by it. You know, it was a little typical in that sense, but in terms of what actually happened, but I just feel like it was still like a really good ride. So that was good. The next book might be my favorite book of all time, and I'm willing to make that statement. It is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. This book, also something I've been wanting to read for a while. Let me just start with the book itself. So it's one of those where like, it's not a jacket, but like the cover is kind of like a jacket. So I don't always love that, but I kind of did, because I used this as a bookmark, and I really did the whole way through. I did the front, and then when it got too far, I switched to the back. So it was kind of convenient in that sense. Deckled edges. I don't know if you could see that. So it's just so fun to hold. For as big of a book this is, it's very light, and it's got these deckled edges. It just feels so nice. Some people love them. Some people hate them. I loved it. So I love this book. The story, the writing, oh my God. I would recommend this to anyone. It touches on a little bit of everything. There's a little romance. There's a little mystery. There's family drama. So the long and short of it is that Georgia is the main character. She's from the South. She moved to... That's the problem with me doing this video 3 months later, because I'm not clear on the details anymore, but I believe she lives in London, and she's coming home for her father's funeral. So we're just kind of put into, and she's kind of estranged from the family. So she's got a sister and she's got 2 brothers. So her older brother and sister, she's not that close with. There's something going on with her and her sister, like some history there that we don't find out about right away. And then her younger brother, she's the youngest, but the next is her younger brother. They were always close, and he's got like a drug problem, so that kind of put a wedge between them, but they're still like, if she talks to anyone, it's that brother. And then the older brother and sister are kind of, she doesn't really speak to them. And let me tell you, when we find out like the history of what happens with the sister, the father, like the dynamics of the family in general is very screwed up. And when we get to the why of it, when we get to what's going on, this book was so amazing. I don't even know how else to say it besides this is 100 stars. The writing was so impressive. It was humorous. It was intelligent. George's job, she reads people, so she could tell if you're lying by the way you react, like your face and stuff. She references like the facial muscles, like she'll say whatever and then she'll be like L5, whatever it is, like the facial muscles that she's seeing happening in this person to tell whether or not she's telling the truth. So that involves so much research and so much like breaking out of your writing groove to do that. Like that's always like so hard when you're writing, if you want to be like factually, like you want to just kind of like escape and write, not have to stop and actually think about, is this correct, especially with fiction. But she did it. Like she makes it so real by being so real about her fiction. Like it was just, I can't explain it. I was so incredibly impressed by all of this, by the writing, by the story, by how much the story covers. Like it really does take you everywhere. There's her brother's sponsor comes with him. When they go back home, and Georgia, there's a love story between her and the sponsor, whose name is Sam Penny. What a great character Sam is. What a great little love story that is. There's really no like spice. It's not anything like that, but it's just like the perfect love story. It's just like everything. Like I can't talk enough about how great this book is. Probably my favorite book of all time, and something that I don't really do a lot of rereads because I want to read so much, but I feel like at some point I'm definitely going to have to reread this because I loved it and I would love to experience it again. So I would totally recommend this book to anyone, no matter what kind of book you like to read, because there will be something for you in here. And it even like some of the things that I don't like to read about, like, that stick with me weird that I've mentioned before. Some of that happens in here. It was okay. Like it didn't matter because I needed to read it. I needed to see what was going on. These characters were so real, so perfect. It was a wonderful book. I totally recommend it. Next, I read Ward D by Frida McFadden. Another book I was excited for because it's a book that when you see people talk about Frida McFadden, I've actually heard a lot of people say that they liked this book. What I will say is I didn't love it, and I don't know why. It was just okay for me. It was just okay. Now, I'm a Frida McFadden fan. You can see on my shelf, I've read like 1 million books of hers at this point. I do kind of still subscribe to the belief that the first couple that you read by her, no matter what they are probably going to be your favorites, because then you kind of know how she operates and it becomes less and less shocking to you what's going on. So there's really no way to test that, but that's kind of been like how I felt. Like my favorites are still the first couple I've read. I'm not sure if it's because those are actually the best, like to me, or if it's because those are the ones that introduced me to her and I just liked the best because I wasn't used to her yet, and she really took me by surprise. So if I had to make piles of love, just okay, and dislike, there's very few in the dislike. To be honest, The Coworker is still probably the only one that's in the this was really bad pile. This is just going to be in the just okay pile. Again, there was like, some twists and you're not sure, and I almost, part of it I think is I wished if some things happened differently. I wished it would have played out a little differently, certain things. I think that was part of why I didn't like it. You're kind of led to believe things might turn out one way and then they don't, but I mean, normally that's a good thing. But in this case, I felt like I was left wanting. Like I wish something would have turned out differently. And there are a couple of possibilities that seem obvious, so you're kind of in your head thinking it's either going to be this or maybe this. So again, nothing's going to be like totally shocking, I don't think. A few little things here and there you might not expect, but overall to me this was just okay. As with all of her books, definitely the pacing was great, definitely keeps you wanting to know, and it's a quick read, but not one of my favorites. And the last book I read in January, I started this year off strong because between, oh my God, the Riley Sager I was excited to read, The Conditions of Will, and then this just sealed the deal. This is also an amazing book, a limited run by Karen McQuestion. I've never read anything by her before. So this, part of why I liked this so much, I think, is my personal preferences. I love like old Hollywood, old TV shows. Andy Griffith's show is like one of my favorite things. This is such a unique premise to me. Like, I haven't really heard of other stuff, you know, I haven't read a lot of other stuff like this. So basically there's this rich guy, and he pays the actors that were on this really like, I think it was only on 2 seasons, like a very short run, limited run, a very short run of this show that's like a typical, like, Leave It to Beaver, very wholesome, Seventh Heaven, but even older, like more Leave It to Beaver, Andy Griffith show type, like wholesome family show, way back when. And so recently now these videos or clips of it leaked online. There's been some like resurgence, some kind of like niche, you know, fans of the show now, and they go to like a book signing, not a book signing, like a convention. And, you know, there's like, they have this like little niche following now, and they're reunited for the first time in all those years, the actors. And then right after that, this really rich man buys this ranch, I think it's in Montana, and kind of makes the set of this show, like makes the entire town, and it's a working town. The buildings have plumbing, they have everything. He makes the entire town. Almost like and again, I don't want to spoil the plot of this movie, but like Bruce Almighty, where it's like kind of like a fake, not Bruce Almighty, Truman Show, where it's like, you know, a real town opera, but everybody's kind of acting. So that's exactly what this is. So he pays these actors to spend a week in this town, and they basically every morning get like a piece of paper with a general direction, like so-and-so's going to start her job at the ice cream shop today. And that's it. So you have to make sure you do that. But other than that, you're going to just kind of ad-lib and act like your character and just live in this town, and they're recording it. And there's all these rules, you know, you can't have any contact with the outside world, none of your cell phones or anything like that. And if they follow the rules and they make it to the end, they never break character, all that stuff, they will win, they will get a lot of money. So again, great premise. I was totally entertained the whole time. The big twist I definitely saw coming. But then there were 1 or 2 other things that I was surprised by. So overall, though, a great read. What a unique story. And again, if you're into that like old Hollywood and classic TV show vibe, so fun like behind the scenes, like we're seeing the actors interact with each other and their own personal drama resurfacing again. And it is amazing. This was so well written and such a great idea, and I really, really enjoyed this book and would definitely recommend it to anyone. I feel like you would probably like this book. So that was January. Now February, I'll kind of talk about them all at once because I read 3 books and they were all part of a series. So I read Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver, and then the second book is Leather and Lark, and then the third book is Scythe and Sparrow. Let me tell you, wow. Also, one of like the best books, not even the best books I've ever read, one of the best modern day romance novels I've ever read. Now, let me tell you, the premise of this book, they're kind of both serial killers, and it's like a friends to lovers kind of thing. So they kind of meet, and then they, meet up to kind of have this killing competition every year. And then eventually it turns into more and blah, blah, blah. But what was so great about this is that I also love horror and I love gore. This is a perfect mixture of that. I actually want to read something in her, like at the end when it's about the author. I loved the last sentence of it. With 9 published works and counting, Brynne has made her mark in the literary world by blending irreverent dark comedy, swoon-worthy romance, and riveting suspense to create genre-breaking, addictive stories for readers to escape into. 100% accurate. That's what was so great. Genre-bending. It was just a little of everything. This was horror. This was dark romance. This was comedy. This was so funny. The characters, and talk about swoon. I loved the male main character in this book. His name was Rowan. Let me just, I don't know why I'm second guessing that, but yes, it was Rowan. Rowan and Sloane. He was amazing. One of my favorite male main characters. I loved him so much. And then the sequels, it's one of those where it just kept getting like better. But what I also loved about the sequels, like sometimes when you have like I'll say, let's say the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which is like a cowboy romance series. That was one I talked about last year, which I love. And I feel like they kept getting better. I feel like the characters kind of like lose their spark in the next book. Meaning like once we're done with these, when I'm in the next book, I really don't want to hear about these people again because it's like they're already together and it's like nothing exciting about that. What's so amazing about these books is that they're almost happening concurrently, if that makes sense. So like we're kind of seeing scenes that were referenced here. So they might not be in the part of their relationship yet where they're together or whatever it is. Same with this. Like there are pieces of these books dropped in this book, and then we're kind of just fleshing out that relationship. So whenever we go back to it, we're maybe seeing something we've read about from a different point of view. Like it's almost like this is all happening concurrently. So all of these characters still feel so fresh and so fun. So that's what I feel is like really special about that. So basically Rowan has two brothers and these follow them. So this is his, Sloane's best friend is Lark, and she's with one of his brothers in this book. And then the other brother is in this book. And they're all different tropes too. This was like a friends to lovers. This was enemies to lovers. And this was like a friends with benefits that became more. So it was just a little bit of everything. Again, I hate that I read this so long ago because I feel like I can't remember everybody's name. Oh yeah, all right. So in Leather and Lark, I basically told you what happens here. And again, the gore, like there's like always something kind of gross with food that happens in every book. And even that's like fun. And you then come to expect it in the next books. Like it's so good. It's so good. And there's twists. It's just so good. The suspense, the romance, the dark romance, the comedy, it's just so good. The spice is like so good. So in this one, the other brother is Lachlan and Sloane's best friend Lark. And they have to get married. There's like I won't get into the whole thing, but they basically like have to get married for whatever reason, but they don't like each other. So they're living together, forced proximity, all that stuff. And Lachlan is such a great character too. Like you really, you come to love everyone for so many different reasons. Like once again, just like with Rebel Blue Ranch, I cannot even pick my favorite male main character from these books. They really all have something so special. So, in this one, again, they're enemies, they're forced to be together, and then they do fall in love. Spice is great, and just how this plays out, and there's a mystery going on here, how it plays out with Lark's family. It's amazing. And then in this book, this is Theon is the other brother's name. He is with somebody in a circus gets hurt. He's a doctor. And somebody in a circus gets hurt, and he takes care of her, and she ends up moving in with him. And so they're, again, kind of forced proximity. They're friends. They end up, starting out just fooling around, and then they feel more, but there's more to the story. So it's just, again, the suspense and everything and how it unravels is just, it's great. And the way they leave off in all of these books is just so perfect. I would recommend this series, but you have to like gore and horror and that kind of stuff. Like you really have to be in on the dark romance, on all of it, on spice and everything. But if you are, this was an amazing series. I now have another book by Brynne Weaver that I cannot wait to start because I'm so impressed by how she wrote these, by the romance. It was great. They were awesome. And then I read 2 books in March. So the first one was Dear Debbie, which is a Frida McFadden book. Really liked this book. So this would go in the books that I actually really did like. Not my favorite, not in like my top favorites, but definitely I really enjoyed this book. I would recommend it. Things you see coming, things you don't see coming. this is basically Dear Debbie is like a Dear Abby type thing where she has a column, but we get like her kind of sorted what she wishes she could write type thing. Like she's a little crazy, and we see like, you know, her giving like, we see her drafts, and it's all like really bad advice, like about how to kill these men or whatever. And then we don't know, we're not sure what she's doing in real life, if she's like kind of playing out this stuff herself, like she's got a screw loose. So yeah, we've got, it's a great character, it's a good premise, it's something a little different, and I really liked it. Not a whole lot to say about it, I don't want to spoil anything, but again, I think some things you might see coming, but you definitely will have one or two surprises. So I really would recommend this book and put it on the better end of the Frida McFadden books, in my opinion. And then the last book I read, oh my God, another amazing, amazing book. This is Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. So last year, I think it was July, I read Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. And this covers something that I am totally uncomfortable reading, and I knew going into it, but everybody talks about how great it was. So I'm not going to get into all this again. You can see it in my video last year if you'd like. But basically, this was about a girl and a guy that kind of get taken by a serial killer and kind of forced to have sex and be together and do all this kind of weird stuff. Very traumatizing, and I don't want to tell you how it ends, if they get out of it, if they don't. I don't want to spoil anything, but basically they're just kind of put into this traumatizing situation, and this book was amazing. Again, something that I don't like to read about. I don't like torture, I don't like rape, I don't like any of that stuff, but this was such a beautiful book, and I loved it so much, and what a beautiful love story. I loved it. So now she's got two, I think it's just two other books that kind of take place in this universe. So this is not really a sequel. But Lotus, there was apparently, I didn't even know how it was connected. As I'm reading this, I'm like, how is this connected? But apparently they mention this guy in a news story in here. And I went back and looked. They do. And then these characters, you know, some maybe just kind of make an appearance in here, but nothing significant. So basically you can read this book without having read this, but if you're going to read them all, you might as well read it in the right order. But this book was about a boy that was kidnapped when he was like 7 years old and kept underground and fed kind of these lies that there was some kind of toxic situation going on that he couldn't come out ever. And when he finally gets out, it's like 20 years later, and he's like new to the world kind of thing. And his best friend, when they were little, never lost hope. She just was basically spent these years waiting for him, never had any other serious relationships, anything like that, because she just lost a piece of herself when he was gone. So she still lives next door to him. They were neighbors when they were little, so she still lives next door, and the kid's brother became like really good friends with her. So again, her name is Sydney. And the boy that got kidnapped was Oliver. So this is basically Sydney and Oliver's story, but I don't know why I can't think of, oh God. I can't think of the brother's name. He's also a very big character in the book. Gabe. So Gabe is Oliver's brother, and he and Sydney still live next door to each other, and they're close friends. And the book kind of opens up with they found Oliver. So this is all about Oliver reassimilating, and he moves in with Gabe, and you know, Sydney's right next door, and they're just, you know, kind of helping him readjust to life. And then also we've got the love story with Sydney and Oliver, and I can't even explain it. This book was so incredibly amazing. Everything about it was written so beautifully. There was just little hidden things that we just came to fruition that were just so perfect. Little mysteries kind of in the background that, you know, came to light, and it was so perfect. All of the characters are great. And Gabe, who I actually really liked, and the reason I wanted to bring him up is because now there's another book, The Stars Are on Our Side, which I did get and I can't wait to read. That's kind of about him and someone else from this book. So it kind of all ties in. So if you're going to read them, I would definitely do it in order. Still Beating, Lotus, and then The Stars Are on Our Side. But this was such a beautiful book. Again, I would probably say one of my favorite books that I've ever read. I loved this love story. I loved the whole idea of it. And she was so perfect with it. And he, you know, he goes missing when he's in the 90s, and Sydney's almost kind of stuck in the 90s. Like, she is, you know, wearing Rugrats t-shirts and the music she listens to and she introduces Oliver to. It's almost like catching him up on what he missed. It's just, it plays out so beautifully. So I would definitely recommend this book. So those are the 9 books that I read January, February, March. And now going forward, I will definitely go back to doing this once a month. It really should have been 10 because the book I'm reading now should have been finished by the end of March, but I'm actually not enjoying it all that much. So that's why it's taking me forever to read it, but we'll talk about that next month. And again, just one more time, letting you know that I put my own book on Amazon now, Heart's Content Road by Nicole Avery. If you want to buy it as a paperback, ebook, or you can read it for free on Kindle Unlimited. So I'll be mentioning that every month. And other than that, I'll see you at the end of April. Bye.